Your early 30s are a weird financial phase, aren't they? They always tell you your 20s are for making mistakes and your 30s are for settling down. But here is what nobody actually tells you. Your early 30s are far more dangerous for your financial future than your 20s ever were. In fact, I'll take it a step further. Even if you have more money in your bank account right now than you've ever seen in your life, you might actually be getting poorer every single day. I know that sounds harsh, but let's be honest. Have you noticed it? Your salary went up. Maybe you got that promotion or you finally landed a job at that dream company. You're finally making that adult salary you dreamed of when you were 22. Yet, for some reason, that feeling of being squeezed at the end of the month hasn't changed. If anything, it's worse. Here's the part most people miss. The 30s aren't a winning phase. They are a defense phase. And most of us are failing miserably at that defense. The problem usually doesn't start with math. It starts with that little voice inside our heads. Back in our 20s, surviving in student housing on cheap pizza and shaky desks, we had a vision. One day, when I have money, I'll buy something better. When that day finally arrives, our minds automatically shift gears. In psychology, they call this hedonic adaptation, but I prefer to call it the poison of getting used to better. Think about the average white-collar professional in New York or Chicago. The moment their salary jumps from $60,000 to $100,000, their world suddenly becomes more expensive. They can't just buy any coffee anymore. They feel they deserve the good coffee. They assume they need to upgrade their car because, after all, someone in their position can't be seen driving that old beat-up sedan. This is exactly where the breaking point begins. We don't see money just as a medium of exchange. We see it as a reward or a form of revenge for the struggles of our past. The sentence, "I worked hard, I deserve this," might just be the first line of a financial suicide note in your 30s. Let's make this concrete, because numbers don't lie. Consider two friends, Mark and Sarah. Both are 31 years old. Mark earns $70,000 a year. He lives in a modest apartment, drives a 5-year-old car, and keeps his dining out in check. At the end of the month, he manages to put $1,500 aside. Sarah, on the other hand, got promoted and now earns $110,000 a year. That's a full $40,000 more than Mark. Sarah immediately moved to a luxury neighborhood, adding $1,000 to her monthly rent, leased a new SUV, another $600 a month, and because her social circle changed, she started spending way more on weekend trips and fancy dinners. Do you know how much net cash Sarah has left at the end of the day? Roughly the same as Mark, sometimes even less. But Sarah has a massive problem. She is now a hostage to a $110,000 lifestyle. If Mark loses his job, he can survive for 6 months on his low overhead. If Sarah loses hers, she only has about a month before that giant wheel stops turning. This is where the gap between being wealthy and looking rich widens in your 30s. Most people think increasing their income will set them free. But more often than not, they're just building a bigger cage. The greatest psychological battle of your 30s is peer pressure in disguise. You're not chasing popularity like you did in high school. Instead, you feel a crushing obligation to look successful. When you see an old friend on LinkedIn buying a house or someone on Instagram posting their European vacation, an alarm goes off inside you. Am I falling behind? What nobody tells you is this: most of those lives you see are sandcastles built on debt. If you look at household debt statistics in the US, the heaviest burden sits right in the 30 to 45 age bracket. People are using money they don't have, to buy things they don't need, to impress people they don't even like. Once you cross that threshold, it's incredibly hard to turn back. Because in your 30s, lowering your standards feels like a social failure. Living with 5 roommates at 20 is an adventure, but moving to a smaller house at 32 feels like a defeat. This perception trap forces you to stay in jobs you hate, living lives you never wanted. Then there's the factor of time, which is the biggest illusion of all. You think, "I still have time. I'll start saving in my 40s." But the miracle of compound interest hits its most critical curve in your 30s. The difference between someone who starts investing at 25 and someone who starts at 35 isn't just 10 years of savings, it's $1 million difference by the time you hit retirement. I've realized that the biggest financial mistakes in your 30s aren't the huge purchases. They are the small leaks. The uncanceled subscriptions, the credit card statements you don't check because the salary is good anyway, the $7 coffees every single morning. These won't make you poor on their own, but they build a habit, the habit of not respecting your money. And if you don't respect your money will never stay loyal to you. The point most people miss is this. The 30s aren't just a time when you earn more. They are the calm before the storm, the period before the most expensive phases of life, kids, health, homeownership, truly kick in. If you spend this calm period adding heavy furniture to your boat instead of patching the sails, you're going to sink the moment the storm hits. So, how do we break free from this? Most people in their 30s are waiting for a miracle. They're waiting for a lottery win, a crypto moonshot, or a surprise inheritance from a relative they've never met. But in the real world, financial health isn't fixed by a sudden explosion of cash. It's fixed by the slow, steady transformation of your habits. It's time for a reality check. Up until now, you've been earning money just to spend it. In your early 30s, you need to flip the script. You need to start looking at your life like a business. If a company doesn't turn a profit, it goes bankrupt. Your profit is the money you set aside and invest at the end of the month. If you're spending everything you make, you aren't a successful professional. You're just a high-revenue business with zero profit. What nobody tells you is that the biggest enemy in your 30s isn't inflation or a bear market. It's decision fatigue. Spending your mental energy every day wondering, what should I eat? Should I buy this shirt? Or should I take out a loan for this vacation? Drains your willpower. This is where you need to change your strategy. Automate everything. Don't look at things like your 401k or Roth IRA as just retirement money. They are your freedom tickets. The moment your paycheck hits, the system needs to steal that money from you before you even see it. Because if you don't see it, you can't spend it. This is how you win the war against your own impulses. Let's look at the biggest financial mistake 30-somethings make in America. The housing trap. Imagine you're 32, a dual-income couple making $120,000 a year. The bank approves you for a $600,000 mortgage. Everyone tells you paying a mortgage is better than throwing money away on rent, or a house is an investment, right? In your early 30s, this can be one of the biggest lies you'll ever hear if you lock yourself into that $600,000 home. Once you add up property taxes, insurance, repairs, and the never-ending cost of furniture, you're likely sinking 40% of your income into that one asset. Here is my take. If a house doesn't pay you while you live in it, it's not an investment, it's a liability. Someone in their early 30s who stays in a smaller rental and puts the difference into index funds could potentially buy that dream house in cash 10 years later. But what do? We get impatient, we over-leverage, and we chain ourselves to a 30-year debt. The most critical error people make is confusing a high income with wealth. Think about a surgeon making $400,000 a year, but spending $390,000. Now think about a teacher making $60,000, but saving $20,000 and investing it wisely. In 15 years, who do you think will be more relaxed? Who will have more options? While everyone else in their 30s is obsessed with increasing their income, they leave their asset column, the things that pay you while you sleep, completely empty. Have you noticed? The people who work the hardest are often the ones with the least amount of wealth. That's because they are trading their time for money. In your early 30s, you have to realize that your time is finite. Eventually, you won't be able to sell your hours anymore. If you don't put your money to work in your 30s, you'll still be working for money in your 60s. What is the core of all this? Stop seeing money as just paper or numbers on a screen. Money is stored time. Every $100 you spend unnecessarily today is actually 2 hours, 5 hours, or an entire week you've stolen from your future freedom. Your 30s are your last cheap years to fill that time reservoir. Because as you get older, responsibilities increase, health costs go up, and your energy might not be what it is today. This is the point most people miss. Financial success isn't about IQ, it's about discipline. You don't need to master the most complex algorithms in the market. You just need to be strong enough to resist the social pressure to spend and show off. I said it at the beginning of this video, you might be getting poorer every single day. If your income is rising, but your freedom, the number of days you can live without working isn't, then yes, you might be rich in dollars, but you are poor in time. You are in your early 30s. There are two paths ahead of you. The first is the one everyone takes, the path of better cars, bigger houses, but heavier chains. The second path is quieter, simpler at first, but it leads to a place where you can finally say no. It leads to true freedom. Let me say it again. Nobody wants you to be wealthy. Banks want you in debt. Brands want you to spend. And social media wants you to be envious. You are the only person who can break this game. Ask yourself today, what am I really buying? Is it just an object, or is it a piece of my future freedom? Your answer will define the rest of your life, because your 30s aren't the years where your story is written. They are the years where you decide what kind of story it's going to be. Will you write a story of debt or a manifesto of freedom? The choice is yours. See you in the next video. Stay wise.